The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
The Dave Hooker Show. A presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Objective insight, expertise, top guests. Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free. Also available on offthehooksports.com.
I compute and obey.
Now to Dave Hooker.
Ready.
Well, if you know the program, then you know that typically midweek we have Jimmy Hyams that will join us. He has to be out of town since he's semi-retired, even though he puts in mad hours for Off the Hook Sports. So we'll have a special guest that will join us in place of Jimmy a little bit later in the program. As a matter of fact, when I say a little bit later, just a matter of seconds. And it's a pretty big one. I'm going to go ahead and tell you. So it's a former Tennessee quarterback that'll help us break down Nico Iamaleava and also his thoughts from the inside on Josh Heupel. We have breaking news. Cam Seldon, Tennessee's running back and all-around incredible athlete by everyone that we talk to, is out for spring. Do spring holdouts matter as the Vols get into full pads, as they've been so for about 3 days? Tennessee a bit robbed by the tip times in the NCAA tournament. John Calipari will be back. What does that mean for Tennessee? Is Kentucky still the flagship school of the SEC in basketball anymore? So a lot going on. Caleb Calhoun, how are you, sir?
I'm good. Happy Wednesday, Dave. How are you doing today?
I'm well. First, as we line up our special guest in place of Jimmy Hyams, what did you make of John Calipari saying he will return? And to me, this is a situation in which it kind of feels like a one-year deal. And then I want to get to Cam Seldon before we get our very special guest on, who will join us any second.
I think Kentucky just has shelled out too much money for their coaches right now. I think that might be where it's at. It's very interesting that he will return. Kentucky failed miserably on the Billy Gillispie hire right before the Tubby Smith era didn't end the way they wanted it to. Now Rick Pitino calls into question anything that ever happened there. So I think that they're just going to take the win with John Calipari, and they'll just keep chugging along for now.
Okay, this guy, I want to steal his Wikipedia page. I want to be known as him because he is a former All-American quarterback at the University of Tennessee. He was a first-round pick. He is also a finalist for the Heisman Trophy. Should have won it. And also, he was a congressman. He is Heath Shuler, the man. You talk about a fill-in for Jimmy Hyams. That's pretty incredible, and hopefully we'll do more in the fall. Heath Shuler, how are you, sir?
Hey, guys. How are you this morning?
Hey, I'm fantastic. I appreciate the time. I turned 50 a couple of weeks ago. Heath, you're welcome to age at any point if you would like to.
Oh, my goodness.
Look like you've aged a second.
Well, so I'm 52 now, so it's certainly creeping up on me. My body feels it a lot more. I feel like I'm a lot older than that at times, but life has been good.
Yeah, you're doing fantastic. Tell everybody what you're up to nowadays. What keeps you busy? Because I know you've got a lot of interest and you've done a lot of great things for our country and your family. Just tell us what keeps you busy nowadays.
Well, after leaving Congress, which was a really good thing to leave Congress.
You picked a good time to cruise out.
I picked a great time. All of my colleagues up there, that are still there, they just talk about how miserable it's been the last, probably 8 or 10 years. So I think things have negotiations where I kind of sat in the middle between the two political parties. I always looked at myself as a kind of, being political agnostic and apolitical. and really just wanting to help. So I sat in between, and they just don't negotiate anymore, no compromise. So I probably was without a job anyway with the groups that are up there now. But after that, I went to Duke Energy, and I was a senior vice president there. We're a Fortune 100 company, largest utility company in the U.S. So that gave me a lot of experience for 4.5 years in a corporate setting, and it was really good. It was great experience, great learning experience, and but really decided to really get into become a CEO of a oil and gas company, and kind of turn the company around. And that's kind of what I do now is I've put together a really incredible team. Integrated Strategy Group is our team. And we put together some really great executives. Most all are former executives in their area of expertise. And so we go and we help companies in a multitude of areas. Restructuring, kind of get them to restructure, prepare for a sell or a merger. And so we were really turning these companies around and making some really good headway. We do everything from public relations, government affairs, and then we got the philanthropy side that we've been really working on recently. Drug, the drug abatement programs that's happening in every state, but really trying to look at our behavioral health is a new area that we've kind of dove into and put a really good team, some of the local folks here in Knoxville. So it's been awesome. It's really, that keeps me really busy, and ended up purchasing Pet Safe Village, and now we call it Pet Resorts. And so I'm always that serial entrepreneur. And so Pet Resorts, dog boarding training facility has taken a lot of my time too. And it sounds, we're really wanting to hopefully grow that, and what we've been able to do, and got some incredible folks there that really take incredible care of people's pets when they go on vacation or when they're at work. And so we do doggy daycare, and our training program is what's starting to really take off as well. As I've hired a really good trainer, a guy by the name of Mike Osteen, who trained all the military IED. He installed the IED program for our U.S. military. And so he's probably known as one of the top trainers in the United States. I personally think he's the best. So he's actually very active, involved in what we're doing, and really putting a great training program together. So, it's keeping me busy. I love being back in Knoxville. If there's one thing I can say is being back in Knoxville, it's home. It truly is home. Just the people and the friendly people, even as people, they don't know you or you don't know you can stand in the groceries aisle or the checkout aisle, and you'll know everything about everyone. Just the quality of the people here in Knoxville is just awesome. I just absolutely love being home.
Okay, so I know Caleb wants to jump in here, but I have set up our poll question online, and it's a fun one for Heath, because I want to get his answer on this too.
Okay.
How good would Heath Shuler be in Josh Heupel's offense? So the options are good, really good, incredible, unstoppable. I'm not going to put the heat on Heath to answer that question, which would be complimenting himself. So before we dive into that, Caleb, anything you want to throw at Heath before we start to talk a little bit to Nico?
No, let's actually start with Heupel's offense since the poll question's up. Let's get going on it.
You roll, sir.
Yeah, Heath, great to meet you, by the way. And
yeah, pleasure to meet you, Caleb.
Thank you. So what are your thoughts on, we talk about this all the time about quarterbacks that would be a perfect fit for Josh Heupel's system, and you come to our mind a lot when we talk about this. The first question I will have is, how much fun would you have had playing in this system, and what do you think is unique about it yourself when you see it?
Well, having fun, and we always talk. You always talk about the quarterback, but if you even look at the players that I was surrounded with an offensive line that I think oftentimes people forget about how incredible that offensive line was. I think I was only sacked my sophomore year, I think only 5 times. Part of it is we actually got out of the pocket. We moved the pocket a little bit, so that kind of narrows it down. But, 5 times, I think, my whole entire sophomore year. You guys may be able to check that out, but it's, I think about 9 times my junior year, which we threw the ball more and more of a in the pocket a little bit more instead of running as much. But that offensive line, I mean, talking about a great group, I mean, they were just phenomenal. And I think they would have had the endurance and the ability to be able to, to get up, hurry to the line of scrimmage. The running backs, because you need a true stable of running backs. Charlie Garner, Aaron Hayden, Little Man Stewart. I mean, those 3. I mean, they were just whoever had the hot hand that day were just. We talk about unstoppable. Those 3 guys at any given day were completely unstoppable with that offensive line. So it would give you that balance and the ability that all 3 of them could be out in space and catch the football. They could be out, move them out of the backfield. And then the wide receivers. I mean, we didn't have the guys that, played in the NFL and had a career in the NFL, but we certainly had those guys that were consistent, that could catch the ball. That literally, when they could get down the field. I mean, you talk of Craig Faulkner, Corey Fleming, Kendrick Jones, Billy Williams. I mean, we had some guys that could really, catch the ball and were very, very consistent in what they did. Ronald Davis was another my sophomore year. That those guys, and Ronald Davis can move. So we had the guys that could stretch the field, Ronald Davis and Billy Williams, and we had those guys that could really consistently catch the ball and had no fear over the middle. So, I mean, I look at it as a whole. I think we could have been unstoppable in this type of offense. I think, but it would take that type of team to be able to be that way. I think it's not just one person. You got to have a team surrounding you. It starts with that offensive line, like I mentioned earlier.
Caleb does most of the work for us, to be honest with you. I'm just window dressing.
I thought that was the case.
Yeah.
I kind of figured that.
But I think you're giving a lot of people credit when you were pretty darn good as well. I'm curious though, if you put yourself in this offense with this group, we're 20 years old again because you and I are roughly the same age.
That's right.
How much fun would it be, and what do you see when you watch it in terms of the reads and in terms of what the quarterback is asked to do?
I kind of get a real insight because, when with Navy being there, so I really get a good feeling, and I ask him 1,000 questions. I know when he comes home and I'll rewind the game tape and watch it, and I'll say, hey, now tell me what you're thinking as a quarterback here. And the great part about it is it's kind of like, I relate it to like the point guard, kind of a fast break. You got to make a decision very fast. It reminds me of the West Coast system that you're not holding the ball in the pocket. So it lessens the ability to take a sack. And then you kind of take that chance downfield. So it reminds me a lot of that. So I had that experience with John Gruden, and John and I got to watch the game. He was at the Tennessee game this year. And so he and I got to sit and watch the game this past year, the homecoming game. And it was pretty cool to be able to sit there with my former coach with the Raiders and to talk about the offense. And he absolutely loves, Heupel's offense and what he's able to do and how he's kind of spreads the ball all over the field. And I think with Nico, and I know that's kind of coming up those questions, but I think you're going to see a more variety of how Nico throws the ball. I just don't think Joe really wanted like the outside. I think he loved the outside perimeter, which was great, and it played into his arm strength, right? I mean, he could throw the ball from one side of the field to the other, and his arm strength that helped. And so, but I think, being more diverse and getting the ball over the middle and underneath, I think you're going to see a more variety of throws this year. But this offense is fast break. You're making a lot of decisions. There's some pre-snap decisions that you make. But, you've got to be that quarterback to realize what the defense is trying to do. But he's able to take advantage of the biggest thing about the offense is he can change during the process of a series, from series to series and quarter to quarter and half to half. He can really, the diversity within that offense that allows them to be to make simple changes that have huge magnitudes of success from one series to the next or a half to a half. I think that's why you've always been able to see he starts strong, has a good third quarter, because they're able to make changes the way that defense has done. And in that second and fourth quarter, been able to put some pretty good, make some changes along those ways too. So I think it's just really the offense is like no other in college sports. So I think it's the fast pace. Everybody's trying to keep up with the fast pace, but nobody's come close yet.
So Heath, quick question on this, because I've asked a lot of former players from the 90s this question, so you're on the spot now too.
All right.
Which offense seemed more ahead of the curve at its time? Heupel's offense now, or Steve Spurrier's offense when you watched that in 92 and 93?
Wow.
Heath, can I throw another one in there?
Yeah.
I want to go early 90s. You guys were running pro-style stuff under David Cutcliffe that a lot of people thought was uber complicated at the time. Caleb, I'm showing my age, but to be able to run pro-style stuff in college was a big deal in the early 90s.
Yeah. Here's what was unusual. Having the opportunity to play with Danny Warfel when I was with the New Orleans Saints. Danny was my backup and one of the greatest individuals I've ever met in my life. I mean, love Danny Warfel. It was kind of unusual because Danny, once he got there, I mean, it was unusual that he had that they would only give them cut-ups of a game tape that the quarterbacks were able to watch. That Spurrier kind of sheltered them away from watching a tremendous amount of game tape, that he gave them specific things that they wanted to do. And I think, but they were intentional and it made Danny kind of focus in on X amount of plays, which was strange. I thought they'd be spending a lot of game tape time. And he said, no, it's very specific to what they want to do. The similarities, most people don't, you always see the big plays with Steve Spurrier as the post route or the corner route, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they were actually reading that when the play was snapped. So it wasn't predetermined that it was going to be a post route. It wasn't predetermined it was going to be a corner route. They were reading that as the ball was snapped. So as a quarterback, they were reading it and the receiver was reading it. Almost identical to what happens in Tennessee's offense, that the receivers are making their conversions. And that's why it's hard for a freshman to come in, and even at the quarterback position and or a wide receiver, because you have to make those conversions based upon the coverage of the defense. And so you saw them. So I think there's a lot of similarities in the two offenses. I don't know who I would give the edge, because that was, you could probably go back to June Jones. That's a blast from the past, right?
Wow,
go all the way back to June Jones and the offense that they had called. Most every route was being altered based upon coverages. And so, probably go back to June Jones was probably the guy that was probably the most innovative during his time. That both, I think there's a piece of Spurrier has taken from that, and I think Heupel has taken from his offense. So I think both unique, but I will give David Cutcliffe this thought. David did the best job of any coach I've ever seen of putting his players not to fit his offense, but his offense to be predicated based upon the personnel that he had. There was difference. I mean, Andy was a different quarterback than I was. And then the next one was, Jerry and I were a little more similar. Jerry Colquitt were more similar in style. But then you go to that next quarterback, which was Peyton. Peyton was a straight drop, more like an Andy Kelly, straight drop back. They weren't going to get out of the pocket. But you watch what Cutcliffe did. He was able to say, okay, we got quarterbacks that can run. I want to be able to get on the perimeter. And in my sophomore year, when we got inside anybody's still this day, our offense inside the red zone, we were the most productive in the red zone in Tennessee history. Because once we got in there, how are you going to defend us? You had to learn how to defend the option, plus our passing game, plus our pro style thing. So you had three offenses that once we got in there, because we'd go five wides on you, or we'd get in a full house backfield and we'd go option. How, as a defensive coordinator, were you going to tell your safety, all right, you got the pitch guy on this, but you also got to defend if they go 5 wides with the same personnel, which was incredible. Because we'd come out of the huddle with the same personnel and we'd go 5 wides with them. We'd have 2 to 3 running backs in the backfield.
So we got an update on our poll question. We made it pretty easy. It's strange that it's brought to you by Boundless Moving with an office in Charlotte, North Carolina. They move me, they can move you. Also, East Tennessee, Boundless Moving. From their 2-hour minimum to turnkey operations, they have you covered. That's Boundless Moving. Just check out Boundless Moving. They move me, they can move you. So how good would Heath Shuler be in Josh Heupel's offense? Good hasn't even gotten a vote, and I'm glad, because really good got 37% of the vote. Incredible, 37% of the vote. Unstoppable, 26% of the vote. That's what people think about you. Heath, nice enough to sit in for Jimmy.
Awesome.
Heath, nice enough to sit in for Jimmy Himes today. Heath, I want to ask you about Josh Heupel's culture, because the term team culture is way overused. If you can give me just 15 seconds, it's brought to you by Ray Varner Ford in Clinton.
Ford Mustang 5.0 GT, 33,540. 2021 GMC Sierra 1500 Denali 4x4, 46,980. 2022 Ford Expedition King Ranch 4x4, 67,550. Ray Varner Ford, your East Tennessee Ford dealership.
Heath, I built a deck one time. It was 20 by 20. A different level was 16 by 16. And I thought, I'll just go build a deck. Well, that's kind of like saying, I'll just go make great team culture. It was a little harder than I thought. And for a lot of these coaches, Billy Napier in Florida, it is really, really hard. How is Josh Heupel, because people don't believe me sometimes, how these guys really like each other. They don't get in trouble. They get along, and it forces everybody to work harder. How's he done that in just 4 years?
Well, I think there's a lot to that, and I think it kind of goes more than just the football team. I think it starts at the very top of the organization, which is Randy Boyd. Goes down to the chancellor and the incredible job that she has done, and Danny White. I think it has to have those three, has to be very important to be able to give the tools and the resources to an incredible coach. And then what he's been able to do when it comes to that football program that he has surrounded himself with some incredible position coaches. And not only do they know X's and O's, but they are incredible men. They literally are, Joey Halsley. I mean, I couldn't ask for a better person to be a mentor and to be a position coach because of the hours that you spend to my own son. I mean, there's no one better that you could ask for to be a mentor. And if you look at all the positions, when he brings in a new coach because of the opportunities that so many of the coaches get because of the success that Tennessee's had under Heupel, they're going to go get other opportunities. He's bringing in a quality person to replace them too. So I think it's more about that. And ironic, there was a kid that that I knew that was in the portal, and the first question had nothing to do with their ability on the field. I mean, it was ironic. The very first question that I had somebody ask me was, "What kind of person is the kid? Is he a leader? How does he do in school?" I mean, you think that you hear that as almost cliche, and that's what the coaches are really supposed to say. But in reality, that was it. They knew, and I coached the kid, so they truly do want to know about the quality of the kid. So I think that if everything being equal with two kids, they're going to take the quality or the player over the quality than maybe a kid that could, embarrass a university. And so I think with that, that's where he's really made a huge amount of strides. And you got to be successful. And you're going to have some kids that go in there. I mean, we all had them in all teams. I mean, guys that you knew that were just, 30 seconds away from getting in trouble. And I think the accountability within their own team was helpful. If you saw a guy getting out of line, then I think there was somebody able to pull him back. I think, probably a Cooper Mays is kind of that guy with his offensive line, and each one of those Brew's going to be that with the wide receivers. He's going to be accountable to those young guys and making sure that they're doing all the right things. So I think if you go through a lot of those positions, that each one of those has a really strong leader. I mean, there is some great leadership. I think is probably one of the best teams of leadership. And when you have great leadership, not only from a coach's standpoint, but when you have it amongst a team, then I think it really is a great recipe for success.
All right. So Heath, making a bit of a transition here, you talked about being Danny Warfel's teammate. And the reason that's interesting to me is I've always named these quarterbacks that I think are like, if you could create them in a lab for a system, like Tommy Frazier for Tom Osborne, Danny Warfel for C. Spurrier was one of them, Tim Tebow for Urban Meyer.
Yeah.
I feel like Nico Iamaleava is a guy that was created in a lab to play in Josh Heupel's system. Is that crazy for me to say?
Yeah. Well, I think he has all the potential to be that person, right? It would hard to be able to take that. Hooker has that ranking number 1 right now. Okay.
Not me, Hendon, right?
Yeah, Hendon Hooker. Yeah. Hendon Hooker has that position number 1. Okay. And it's going to take a lot to take over that position. Is it going to happen this year with Nico? I hope so, but most likely not. It's going to be a couple of years down the road. Nico's going to play extremely well at times, and he's going to make some young mistakes. I think that's where I think he's worked really hard already. Preparing once the bowl game, his preparation was really good. I thought he made great decisions. He didn't give the ball to the opposing team. He probably missed a lot of reads, right? I kind of saw him. He was more quick to pull the ball down and run, which is okay when they start spying, because his ability to run, it's going to cause a little more that he's going to have to really go through his progressions. But I think he's got a great opportunity. He's got the physical, the mental tools to be able to be successful. He's got the arm strength to be successful. Because that's the one thing about this offense. You better be able to throw it from hash to the other sideline with a lot of velocity. So I think he certainly has that arm strength and ability. But I think he's got that little bit of the it factor, Caleb, that you're talking about, right? He does have that the swagger that I like to see a quarterback have, his ability to move. And the great thing about it, he's not fast. Nico's not I would say he's probably not. He's maybe a 4.6, 4.7 guy, but look, there's a guy that won the Super Bowl this year at running high 4.7. And just the ability to move and when to move and how to get out of the pocket is important, far more than just your 40 time. But I think he's going to have a lot of success using his legs and throwing the ball. The thing with him is he's got to continue hitting the weights. He's got to get stronger, really get stronger. And that's not to be able to throw the ball better. It's just to be able to stay intact during the season.
You may have been the only quarterback where I was around that actually liked the weight room other than
I loved it.
You loved it?
I loved it. I love the weight room. That was my passion,
Well, it's because you could have been you would have been a decathlete easy. You would have won the gold medal. I've said that before. I've told you that before. What would you tell Nico about the weight room? How do you embrace that? Because most quarterbacks hate it. I remember when a scout came to me and said, the worst mistake that Casey Clausen ever made at Pro Day was taking his shirt off. Has he seen the weight room? So, what would you tell Nico about how he needs to embrace it?
Well, it's about longevity. The more that you prepare in the weight room and get stronger, and it keeps your joints together, your shoulders, you want to be strong, be able to break tackles. And oftentimes, the defensive tackle grabs a hold of you and you got a chance to get the ball out of your pocket. It's a difference between out of your hand. It's a difference between a sack and a first down. And just having that physical strength to be able to break loose or to be able to get that ball out has nothing to do with the ability to throw as much as your abilities in the weight room. And you have to get stronger. If you want to be successful, you have to get stronger. I mean, the greatest quarterback to ever play the game was Brady. So, you know, he took his shirt off at the combine, and I don't think they were too impressed with him. And
but he
it's
got
hard to say. I'm talking about a guy that was injured for my career, but and a guy that played, you know, gosh, forever. That was just unstoppable. That probably didn't have the, you know, the best physique. He wasn't a Cam Newton physically, you know. But
well, let me go ahead and tell you this, Heath.
Unbelievable.
I'm just gonna roll this out there. That Tom Brady and everything, he's all right. Wasn't a congressman.
Well, okay.
I mean, there you got that. He's jumping up on chairs selling this product now. You're actually you were a congressman. Go ahead, Caleb.
So Heath, interestingly, I wanted to settle a debate for us because Dave and I actually disagreed all last football season on this because it's funny. You said what I said, which is I felt Nico needed to get bigger last year. There was a lot of talk that after the Citrus Bowl that maybe Nico should have started earlier in the season in 2023. I was of the mindset that I think Heupel wanted to make sure Nico got physically there conditioning-wise before he was ready to just trot him out. And I think it was a good move to have Joe Milton start the whole season. What did you think?
Well, Caleb, I'll have to agree with you. Sorry, Dave. I apologize.
You would have won the gold medal in the decathlon. I'm not backing off that.
Well, that was my true sport that I love the most. Most people don't know that. So, track was my favorite by far. I love track. That was my favorite sport by far. You know,
I did not know that.
You know, love track. But when it comes to Nico, I think there was another point that it had to be a time in which he was going to be put into a game to be successful. And I think that they really did a really good job of keeping it simple during the bowl game, and allowing him to be successful in the things that he knew well. Because there's so much attention given to the starting quarterback to be successful during the season. It's really challenging to just go through one spring ball in this particular offense based upon the route conversions that the wide receivers have, right? So to me, nobody knows better than your head coach and your offensive coordinator, quarterback coach, of when a quarterback is ready. And I think they certainly made it at the right time. And it was a good thing. I'm glad he had that opportunity. You know, the hard part is the difference with Hendon gave Joe Milton a lot of time, right? I mean, he got a lot of snaps. This last year, Joe didn't give Nico as many snaps as he probably should have gotten or would have gotten. You know, there's a couple of games there that we should have, you know, Nico should have probably played the entire second half, no different than Joe played a lot of second halves, or certainly the fourth quarters in full, because of just getting up on some teams that we should have been way up on instead of, you know, going into the fourth quarter before we started to put them away. So I think going into this year that, you know, Nico he's still going to make those freshman mistakes along the way, but I think having that one full game under his belt's really been helpful.
So I didn't know you were in Knoxville. So when's launch? Because I'm in Knoxville now.
Well, hey, I've been here since 22. So
so I'm
August of 22.
I'm going. The last time I went to lunch with a quarterback from North Carolina, I overheard the ladies there saying, "Wow, he's really good looking." And I went up to her and I said, "Sorry, ladies, I'm married." And she said, "I was referring to that one," and it was referring to Jonathan Crompton.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So
we won't tell Jonathan that. We won't tell him that.
No, he's already got a big head. Yeah. All right, have a fantastic rest of your week. It really means a lot. Guys. Greatly appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on the show. Great to see you, Caleb. Thanks, Dave.
Have a good one. It's great meeting you.
Strong stuff. He fills in for Jimmy Himes today, and it's brought to you by Ray Varner Ford in Clinton.
Ford Mustang 5.0 GT, 33,540. 2021 GMC Sierra 1500 Denali 4x4, 46,980. 2022 Ford Expedition King Ranch 4x4, 67,550. Ray Varner Ford, your East Tennessee Ford dealership.
Oh, I just saw our messaging system. You had one more question, Caleb. I dropped the ball on that. What did I do?
Yeah, I was going to ask about just North Carolina talent and the North Carolina pipeline to Tennessee between Sean Bryce. I mean, there's this guy on Tennessee right now who may be the best player on the team who's from North Carolina.
Who's that?
James Pierce.
Who's
And
interesting conversation real quick on the message board. And I'm not going to make this a big deal, but since we did get the North Carolina tie-in, let me ask you this. If you had to be the agent for any player on this team, it's James Pierce, right? Because I think maybe you'd say Nico, because he'd get more endorsement deals. Who's third then? I'll give you a second to think about that. I'll remind you that the show is represented by Banks and Jones. Banks and Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks and Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks and Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks and Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com. For me, it would be Brew McCoy if he was cockier, because I think he'd get more attention. But as far as who I would represent, it's definitely Nico 1, Pierce 2. I'm not sure who 3 is right now.
It's Boo Carter. He's going to be a self-promoter.
Ooh,
He is.
There he goes. All right. I like that. Coming up on the program next, Cam Seldon. This is breaking news. If you're watching live, he is out for spring. This is supposed to be one of Tennessee's star running backs after they lose 2 from last year's team, along with Dylan Sampson, who we may have some pretty big news on here shortly. But we'll talk Cam Seldon. How big of a loss is this? And how close might he be to kind of slipping into the abyss that's known as spring practice stars? You don't want that. 2 minutes off the hook. Sports with Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker.
Welcome to Varner Ford in Clinton, where every turn meets new possibilities and every mile celebrates cutting-edge innovation. Elevate your journey with our pre-owned selection of quality vehicles. 2021 Ford Mustang 5.0 GT, $33,540. 2021 GMC Sierra 1500 Denali 4x4, $46,980. 2022 Ford Expedition King Ranch 4x4, $67,550. Local you trust, pre-owned vehicles you can afford. Varner Ford, your East Tennessee Ford dealership.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Have you seen the latest TriStar Hats Co. product?
TriStar Hats Co.? What's that?
You know, those really cool hats, shirts, tumblers, and even license plates with 3 stars like the official Tennessee flag and stripes like the American flag. Pretty patriotic if you ask me.
Ah, gotcha. Seen those. Those are cool. Where can I get them?
Simple. TriStarHatsCo.com. And if you order now, there's 10% on any order $50 or more. Plus, use the promo code HOOKED.
With the promo code HOOKED, you get 10% off. That's hooked.
And don't forget free shipping with any order over $50. Stock up at TriStarHatsCo.com. That's TriStarHatsCo.com. There are plenty of wannabes out there, so make sure you go to TriStarHatsCo.com for the best quality and customer service.
Will do, and I'll be sure to use the promo code HOOKED. That's hooked when I do, to save an additional 10% off. TriStarHatsCo.com.
TriStar Hats Co. is a trademark of TriStar Hats Co. LLC. Any use without express written consent is prohibited.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, BanksJones.com.
You're listening to The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
The internet is full of pictures of each and every one of you.
Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free.
Is there nothing you people can't do?
Also available on offthehooksports.com.
Injuries are going to happen in spring practice. It is just a fact of life. And Tennessee has suffered one in Cam Seldon, who will be out for the remainder of spring practice. He was the spring practice star last year, as everyone thought he would have a major impact. Little did they know, some of those people, that Jalen Wright was going to be fantastic. Jabari Small is still pretty good. And you had Dylan Sampson taking another step. So Seldon was not a factor. How big of a factor is it, Caleb Calhoun, that he will not be available for the remainder of spring camp?
So there's a twofold take on this. For Tennessee, it's not as big of a factor because I don't think Cam Seldon's that good. So that's the first part. Okay, the guy.
Okay, now let me stop you there, because I happen to tend to agree with you. I'm still. I think you and I would both agree the jury's still out, right? We don't know that he's not that good. It's too early.
There are some holes that if you can't identify, I don't think you'll ever be able to play football at running back. I mean,
okay, but you have to admit you're a little unsure. 20-30%. He could still. You're not saying
it's not as fun. I like to be 100% sure. And,
okay, 100% sure. I am unsure. However,
all right, you are probably right, but
no, that's fine. But I am not 100% sure either way. But there are a lot of people around this program that think that he is going to be really good. So the eyeballs go with Caleb. The eardrums go with the guys that I'm hearing that I respect their opinion. So I'm a little torn. But the fact that he's out for spring, let's deal specifically with that. Do spring holdouts really, really matter?
Now, on that front, I say yes. It is indicative of what will happen in the fall. I think if you're held out of the spring due to injury, it gets hard to get you back into rhythm. And I do think that can cause some issues. Heupel had a lot of people out last spring, and then there were a lot of injuries that hit during the fall. I can give you guys some history real quick. There was a Jalen Reese-Maben was once held out of a spring under Butch Jones. Then he missed a significant portion of his senior season because of that. You can go way back. Gerald Riggs was held out of a spring camp because they didn't have a lot of depth there. I think Arian Foster was a freshman that year, and they were worried about the lack of talent behind Riggs, so they just held him out. Riggs suffered a season-ending injury in the fall of 2005. Either held him out or limited him in spring practice. I can't remember. But there seems to be a pattern of when players are held out of spring or not playing, of it causing them issues when they play in the fall.
Okay. I'm that to me is just an odd coincidence. I think there are plenty of players who've been held out of spring that were completely healthy through the fall because they were held out of spring. Here's why this isn't even news. And what did I say? It's not even news, because it's not.
What the? What was he thinking?
Release the hounds.
The Dave Hooker Show.
Keep cool.
A presentation of offthehooksports.com.
I'm going to go so far, Caleb, as to say it's not even news. And I say that because skill position players can do as much in the summer as they can in spring. It can be every bit as beneficial for everyone that isn't in on the trenches. I believe that most oftentimes you err on the side of caution with holding guys out. I happen to think Cam Seldon will be a decent football player, or they would have already run him. You and I can differ on that. But in just terms of spring holdouts, do they matter? I don't really think so. I think spring is about getting young guys better, and he's a young guy. But I think you and I would agree that running backs are kind of on a different developmental curve. We've seen freshmen have impacts. We've had sophomores seen impacts. So this is not like it's an offensive lineman that's coming in and trying to get used to the system. I don't think it's even news that he's held out. I don't think it's a big deal at all.
Well, I think it's... But part of being involved in spring practice, Dave, is not just developing and learning the system. Now, that's part of it. And if Cam Seldon is going to be what you think, he needs every second of learning the system that he can get. And he needs every bit of practice he can get, because that guy needs to develop. mentally. I don't mean he's not all there. I mean just he can't.
I understand what you mean. We're not calling people stupid around here.
Yeah. So, with that in mind, my issue is that a lot of spring for the veterans is about just staying in shape. So how does the calendar work, Dave? You have all season workouts, right?
Yes.
Then you have spring practice. Then you have summer workouts. Then you have fall camp. That's how that works, right?
Yes.
Well, if you're held out all of spring, then your summer workouts could be about you just trying to get back to where you were from off season, from winter workouts, as opposed to actually maybe building on the strength and muscle you built.
I think you're reaching, Caleb.
I'm not reaching. This stuff happens. Every other conference is getting better. Every other player is getting better.
Constantly. I mean, he's already, it's the be ready, get ready. He's already ready. I mean, if there were a game on Saturday, you think Cam Seldon, or let's say in 3 weeks, the end of spring camp, let's say this is the old bowl practice where they're getting ready for an opponent that's about 3 years away. You think that he wouldn't be available in 3 weeks? Come on.
I mean, he may be available. He wouldn't play because he wouldn't be that good. But I do say,
aside from that, let's make it somebody who, I don't want to throw out names, but it could be somebody else. By the way, how good would Heath Shuler be in Josh Heupel's offense? Incredible 36%, really good 34%, unstoppable 17%, good 10%. Cam Seldon being out this is the new poll question, troublesome, okay, and then I don't even think he's going to be a factor. How about that? So I know where you would go. I don't think, though, that it's a constant gradual physical growth throughout the offseason. I think several guys would have times in which, injured or not, they wouldn't continually get better to make them healthier in the fall. I think you're reaching a little bit there, Caleb.
I don't know. I think it's possible. I'm just saying, anecdotally, there are some stories here, and it is true. I'm seeing the comments, and I do believe it's true. Wasn't Dante Thornton held out of spring practice last year? How'd that work out? This all-world transfer.
Okay, I don't want to go down that road. Maybe you could do a little bit of research and tell me for sure. I'm not 110% sure that he was held out, but if he was, that supports my point of the young, inexperienced guys need to be there. By the way, if you can take a second, hit that like button, hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed yet, do that. Turn your notifications on. We appreciate that. But that's the type of guy that needs it. A transfer needs it. A freshman needs it. A freshman offensive lineman needs it. I don't think, I mean,
now I will say this.
By now, there's a problem.
No, I'll give you this. I put no stock into how somebody performs in spring practice. Never have, never will. Like the spring game. You know what I mean? Have you ever cared how well someone played in a spring game? Have you ever been gone away from a spring game and like, that guy's going to be a star?
Not the spring game, but the 3 spring scrimmages that they would have. If the team was fairly healthy, that they would only open to certain media members. Yeah, I drew a lot from that. But I mean, I don't. But I'll say that. I'll say this to support your point. That's only about 2 out of 5 years when most everybody was healthy and they were participating. But now spring practices and scrimmages aren't even open. So for somebody to say that, like they did last year, Cam Seldon's going to be a superstar, I thought that was way ahead of the curve. There were a lot of people that thought that he was going to surpass Jalen Wright and Jabari Small. I thought that was pretty crazy at the time.
I think this coaching staff lies. I'm just going to say it. It annoys me to no end.
Every coaching staff lies. Why
no, these blatantly lie. They tell us to ignore our eyes and what we're seeing constantly. I mean, we heard all last year that Squirrel White was exploding in spring practice, that he was dominant, that he was going to be all-world everything. And now we had reason to believe it because we saw him in mop-up duty during the season in 2022. He wasn't all-world everything in 2023. Now, yes, a lot of that is the fault of who was throwing him the football. We can put that on Joe Milton in a lot of ways, but he wasn't what we were promised. You're hearing the same thing about Cam Seldon again this offseason. I have eyes. The coaching staff what they say can't contradict my eyes. Yeah. Okay. Josh Heupel is very close to hitting Butch Jones level lying with Shy Tuttle fell on a helmet. Okay. It's like, it annoys me to no end how much he lies to us.
Yeah, and let me clarify something real quick. Ben said Seldon had shoulder surgery. Did he not? How's he going to be ready in 3 weeks? But my point being is if this was the fall, maybe a different decision would have been made. If it's a national championship game, maybe a different decision would be made as to whether or not to have surgery. That was my only point. I'm not talking specifically Ben in this instance. I want to clarify. But there's a totally different mindset that occurs in spring camp than at any other time of the year. When you're in the fall, you're thinking, can I get this guy by? Can I get him healthy? Can he get through one more game? Because there's a bye before Alabama. That's your mindset. Now it's like, get him off the field so that he can't even be on the sidelines and nobody could accidentally run into him. He's banged up. There's no reason in getting hurt in spring camp. Caleb, there was one player, there's been a couple of players that have gotten hurt in spring camp where you kind of scratch your head and wonder. I believe Peerless Price got hurt in spring camp. Did he not? Maybe you can check on that.
I thought he got hurt in the spring camp heading into 97, though. Peyton Manning's senior season.
Yes, he did. And he ended up playing about halfway through the season and had a decent year. But at the time, you had to question Tennessee's coaching staff for even having Peerless Price out there.
Peerless Price also had some mistakes in that season, but yes.
He did have some mistakes in that season. You never make a mistake when you go with BetUS. 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits, plus that 10% gambler's insurance. BetUS. So Cam Selden will rush for over or under 250 yards this fall. Brought to you by BetUS.
America's favorite sportsbook and casino. Live betting and racebook. We're celebrating 30 years with a historic offer. A 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits. Plus 10% gambler's insurance. Get started today. BetUS, where the game begins.
If he doesn't rush for over 250 yards in his sophomore year, a lot of people are going to look stupid from last year. That's just a fact. And it's not me and Caleb, because we weren't hearing the same thing that other people were hearing. You're taking the under, correct?
Yeah, I'm taking the under, but the coaches would sit up there and set an over-under of 250 yards in his first game if you heard them talk.
They're not allowed to bet on their own sport.
As we learned, they would tell you.
As we learned from Shohei Ohtani, you cannot bet on your own sport.
Do you think he knew or didn't know?
He absolutely knew. I said the moment this came out, it reminds me exactly when you first heard about stuff like OJ, when you first heard about, and I'm not comparing the crimes, when you first heard about the steroid issue, it was small and it got bigger and bigger. And I think this thing continues to grow. And as a guy who loves journalism, I can't talk about it enough. If we did Major League Baseball, it would be an hour and a half straight of it. I'm pretty.
I mean, you were a journalist in '98, stuck covering football, because I love how during the summer that saved baseball, nobody was actually covering the fact that Mark McGwire got caught with Andro in his locker room that year, which was a cover for steroids, and people were like, "Oh, but this home run chase is happening, so let's cover that instead." But yeah, I think he knew too, and I'm going to say this just from the start now. We love gambling. I love gambling on this show, but I take a pretty strong line on players who bet on the sport they play.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all, and I think you should. And I know that's why our friends at BetUS always have that eye out. So let's pull up this tweet if we can. Tennessee with some tip times. You might have to pull that up, or I can just read them off. Tennessee's tip time is going to be against Creighton. Technically, Tennessee's the home team, but we know that's going to be played in Detroit. Is after game 2. Game 2 is Gonzaga Purdue. That tips at 7:39. Okay. That means that Tennessee is not going to play or tip. Best case scenario, 11 o'clock. Right?
They're estimating the tip time to be at 10:09, so 2.5 hours after Gonzaga Purdue. But that makes no sense. So you're telling me the game would have to end right at the 2-hour mark, and then within 30 minutes, the other teams can come out and get ready in the locker room and take the court? Is that really going to work, Dave?
No, I think I don't understand the reasoning behind all this. Can you share that tweet so we can look at the tip times? Because
yeah, I can share
this is why to me the NCAA needs to be completely out of football, and pretty much is. And these tip times are just all over the place. If you're trying to share basketball, if you're trying to share a sport with your family members, this is not the way to do it. The Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with the wide variety, great selection, and strict standards to ensure you only receive the best in CBD or Delta products. Go to hemphousechat.com, hemphousechat.com. Use the promo code HOOKED for 10% off. Hooked for 10% off. So we have those up now. What do you think, guys? I'm curious. Are you frustrated by this tip time? Do you care? Because to me, I think it's horrendous. I mean, you've got if you want to share this with your family, it's really tough to do. And just to be sure, these are all Eastern times, correct?
Yes, they're all Eastern times.
Okay. So they wanted this pod system to be able to make it easier to view. This makes it worse. So on that Friday night, well, let's look at the Thursday night too.
Well, let's just start this. There's something that starts stupid from the beginning. The West region.
Stupid and end stupid.
Yes, the West region. You know, the game that's played out west on West Coast time. That's
Right.
3 hours behind everything else, guys. That involves the most prominent West Coast team in Arizona. The most prominent Pacific time team in Arizona is the earliest tip-off on Thursday in the NCAA tournament. How does that make sense, Dave? It's going to be not only, and then the last game of that night is at earliest a 10:09 tip-off and will be in Boston. So Boston gets a tip at 10:09 at night. LA gets their tip at 4 in the afternoon. When did you reverse this?
Yes. I mean, I don't like anything about this. I tell you what I would do too. This is all for television is the bottom line. I would start
what it is.
Yeah, I would start one of these games at 6 p.m. So you'd have a 6 to 8. I can watch it in its entirety and then have an 8 to 10. There has got to be something different you can do. I mean, not even getting rolling with a tip time at 7:09 both nights is just pure stupidity. That's 5:09.
And picking the West Coast games to get rolling with that early tip time too.
It's disappointing. It's absolutely disappointing. And then can I rail on something else for a second if you don't care? The whole new pod.
I'm going to break down what this is about, but yeah, rail first.
Okay, I want that. The whole new pod system that they do now. The games used to end like bam, 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 bam in the morning session. And then you'd see 4 endings and you'd hopefully see one incredible ending. We didn't on Thursday this year. And then the next games would play still before, I call it the before the news segment of the tournament. Because remember, they used to take a 2-hour break. You'd watch the news, you'd take a break, you'd have some dinner, you'd start watching basketball again. Well, now to get even more TV time because there are more networks, they've spread it across in terms of every game ends at different times. So it's almost impossible to keep track of what games are going on when. I hated that part of it too. You won't hate Quality Tire Pro. The Eberle family has been serving Chattanooga's community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service automotive, brakes, alignments, oil changes, and more. All work is covered by a national warranty. Cherokee Blvd right there, or qualitytirepros.com. Stop by and say, Off the Hook Sports said, hey, Bo. Off the Hook Sports. All right. Why are these tip times so crazy, Caleb?
Okay, here's where it gets worse. Okay, so you have the West Coast time is the first game, like I've told you all, 7:09, which will be 4:09 West Coast time, Clemson and Arizona. Then right after that, at 7:39, you have San Diego State and UConn tipping off in Boston. So the two West Coast teams are the two earliest tip-offs, Arizona and San Diego State. At least one's in Boston. Then after the first tip-off in LA, the second tip-off is Alabama, North Carolina at 9:39. And then it's Illinois, Iowa State at 10:09 back in Boston. Now here comes Friday. On Friday, again, the furthest west teams are NC State and Marquette playing at American Airlines Center in Dallas. Dallas. And tip-off is at 7:09. Right after that is Gonzaga and Purdue in Detroit. Tip-off at 7:39. And then and then you have Dallas again. We'll get Duke and Houston. And then Tennessee and Creighton tip off at 10:09. There's a bunch of things wrong with this, but I'm first going to get to the conspiracy of what's wrong with this.
I love it. I absolutely love it when you go, that's crazy. Conspiracy, Caleb. Go, go, go. I'm excited.
Every part of this worked around making sure that Duke and North Carolina got the primetime CBS spots.
We didn't say it at our 3:45 a.m. production meeting because I wanted Caleb to say it live. That's exactly what I was thinking. And no offense to the rest of the field, but Dalton Connect would have been an absolute lock for second place behind the Edey kid at Purdue. It wouldn't have been close for second best player in the nation if he played at Duke. Duke, North Carolina get preferential treatment all the time. Colton said conspiracy, Dave, is underrated. Now, your comments are great, and I'm getting to them. They're off the chain today. But doesn't Tennessee have to play early on a Sunday? Could they play theoretically with one overtime? They could play into like 2 a.m. Saturday morning and then play earlier on a Sunday? How does that work?
Yes, this is what is so stupid. This is what I can't get past. The Dallas games, which I believe is the South region. The South region tip-off is before the Midwest region tip-offs on Friday. But the Midwest region tip-off for the final is before the South region tip-off on Sunday. So Tennessee is by far the most screwed out of this, guys. They have a at earliest 10:09 tip-off.
Most
That's
screwed. I invite you to participate in Hooker's Corner, where you can win
Oh my God.
prizes. Go ahead.
So yeah, Tennessee has the latest tip-off. And then on Sunday, if they were to win, they would have a 2:20 p.m. tip-off on Sunday in the Elite Eight. This is the biggest hatchet job I've ever seen. Tennessee fans should be super upset about that because at least on Saturday, so the East region goes last and the West region goes first on Saturday, but on Thursday. So at least on Saturday, the West region goes first and the East region goes last. But no, for Sunday, the South region goes first. For Sunday, the Midwest region goes first and the South region last, even though on Friday, the South region goes first and the Midwest region last. I don't know who was on crack and doing this.
Why, though, do you think Tennessee is getting hatcheted, or as you put it, or are they just collateral damage because they want to promote schools they want to promote and Tennessee's not one of them?
I think late Sunday afternoon draws better TV ratings than early Sunday afternoon. And I think that in the case and possibility that Duke reaches the Elite Eight, they want them in that late Sunday afternoon game and not in the early Sunday afternoon game. That's what this is all about. It's about TV networks. I understand if you want to make it about TV networks, but make it fair. And this is a complete and total screw job. And Tennessee is the biggest victim because the NCAA tournament is too darn incompetent to do anything else.
Well, I can't argue with that. We would love for you to sign up for Hooker's Corner, our Patreon page. Coming up later today, Tennessee's most important offensive lineman ranked. That's just for our subscribers. And also we'll have some recruiting information on there as the week rolls on. So go ahead and sign up. But the biggest thing is you get to win weekly prizes, including great prizes from our friends at Sports Treasures. Sports Treasures carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia, daily update, Sports Treasures TN against Sports Treasures TN. So please sign up today. We would love for you to be a part of the group. We'll have an update on our celebrity bracket challenge in a bit as well. But with Hooker's Corner, you also, if you ever have a question, I check it every day, of any of our many guests, and that could be Heath Shuler, Fred White, obviously our regulars like Caleb Calhoun. He's a frequent John. You can just send me a message and I'll be sure and take care.
I'm always coming back
and get you an answer. I've been doing that quite a bit, and it's fun to have that interaction with you. Just $9.98, and you can win a weekly prize plus the monthly prize. If you look over my shoulder and you're on a video platform, is that black mini helmet. Excuse me. Signed by Brew McCoy. That's easy for me to say. I got excited and choked up over the black mini helmet. And we'll be giving that away. Oh, my gosh. That's on Friday. We're giving that away on Friday because that's the last Friday of the month. So sign up now. Sign up for our Patreon group. Again, just $9.98 a month, and you can win that Brew McCoy helmet. So that's big time. Arthur brings up the chances who wins the Midwest region by odds. Gonzaga, 81%, Purdue, 88%, Creighton, 69%, 21%, Tennessee.
Where's that coming from?
I don't know, Arthur. Can you help us with that?
That doesn't make sense. Nobody would have a better than 50% chance to win the Midwest region. Only one person would be able to have a better than 50% chance.
Ooh, well, no, sure. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm interested by those numbers. Let's pull that up on BetUS, because if you can get Tennessee for a 5
BetUS isn't going to do odds like that.
Okay, well, let's pull them up.
That's not what that would be.
Yeah, I don't think those odds can be right. I would like to see that. But if you could get Tennessee for a 5-1 to make the Final Four, I'm going to go ahead and tell you and lay your money down right now, because that to me would be huge. Let's see what the odds are, and we'll have those here in a moment, along with this day in Tennessee sports history. Also, John Calipari is coming back, and I think that he took a shot at Rick Barnes. We'll have our 4 downs brought to you by our good friends at Dynasty Pools and Spas. So hang tight, and we're going to check on those numbers. But, man, if you can get Tennessee in any shape, form, or fashion as a 5-1 to win the region, pull out the checkbook. 2 minutes. Caleb Calhoun, Dave Hooker, Off the Hook Sports.
In its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that. If we wouldn't put our family in it, we're not going to put their family in it. If you're going to say that you're doing the best work in Knoxville, now saying it's one thing, producing it and providing it's another.
The largest family-owned collision center in Knoxville is Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Hi, I'm Rick Terry, and we at Rick Terry Jewelry Designs pride ourselves in the highest quality craftsmanship from a family-owned business here in Knoxville for over 35 years. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we also take pride in being an affordable option for all your game day accessories, especially those fire opals. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we want to be your jeweler every day and especially on game day. Go Vols!
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
How's it going, guys? This is John Clabo with Tennessee Homemade Wine and Tennessee Cider Company, and I could hardly sleep last night. I'm so fired up to tell you guys about the club. No longer do you have to order just wine. Now you can get your favorite hard ciders and your favorite homemade wines shipped right to your front door once every quarter. Whether it's 2, 4, 6, or 12 bottles of either or, maybe some of both, get excited, get fired up, join the club today.
2021 Ford Mustang 5.0 GT, 33,540. 2021 GMC Sierra 1500 Denali 4x4, 46,980. 2022 Ford Expedition King Ranch 4x4, 67,550. Ray Varner Ford, your East Tennessee Ford dealership.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, who is it?
The Dave Hooker Show,
Who?
a presentation of Off the Hook Sports,
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
If you're on our video platform, then we encourage you to check out the hats that you're seeing. TristarHatsCo.com. TristarHatsCo.com. We absolutely love the TriStar product, a fantastic partner of the program with TriStar Hats. You use the promo code HOOKED. That's HOOKED, and you will get free shipping and 10% off. So certainly check that out. We appreciate you supporting our sponsors. That's why we're here. Speaking of, if you own a business, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to jot this name down or remember it, because I'll be glad to help you. You can email me at any time. But you need to go to Apex Apparel Group for your next business purchase when it comes to promo material. Just call Tyler at 865-919-3001, 865-919-3001, and you will get whatever you need. Design, brand, market, not just clothes, full service for your company, promo products, spirit wear, the whole 9 yards. They've got it. Caleb, what are the odds on Tennessee? Can we clarify these odds a little bit? Because I'm wondering if we got some numbers that were a little bit screwy.
Tennessee has the second best odds to win the Midwest region. Purdue BetUS is giving Purdue plus 125 money line. They're giving Tennessee plus 225, Creighton plus 450, and Gonzaga plus 475. So Tennessee's a little over 2-1 to win the Midwest region and get to the Final Four.
Okay, let me ask you this. Do you like that bet brought to you by BetUS?
America's favorite sportsbook and casino. Live betting and racebook. We're celebrating 30 years with a historic offer. A 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits. Plus 10% gambler's insurance. Get started today. BetUS, where the game begins.
You got to take it 2-1. Are you taking it, or are you taking the other side?
I would actually rather I think Creighton's a better bet than Tennessee. Not that Creighton's a better bet, like more likely to get to the Final Four. I'm just saying the odds combined with their likelihood. I like Creighton at plus 450. I'd go for the 4.5-1 odds before I went for Tennessee over the 2.25-1 odds.
What's Purdue, even?
They are plus 125, so like 0.25-1 or 1/4-1 odds. So yeah.
There's a certain love affair that's cropped up in this tournament with Edey. Everybody liked him. Obviously, he was the National Player of the Year 2 times in a row, but it seems like there's even more of a love affair. I wonder if that's affecting the number at all. It is time for 4 downs. And no, actually, we're going to get to John Calipari first. John Calipari is coming back to Kentucky. Let's start with this. Do you think that this was Kentucky's choice or John Calipari's choice? He said, quote, "Let's come together and let's do something special. We have done it before, so let's do it again." Man, that sounds a lot like what Philip Fulmer was saying before he got fired. Caleb, do you think this was Kentucky's choice or John Calipari's choice?
I think John Calipari sold him. John Calipari, I think, is the best salesman in basketball or in sports in general. He can convince you like nobody can convince you. And so he said this on a radio show before Mitch Barnhart announced he was coming back. And
but may I offer this? Why would he say that when he has the buyout anyway?
He wants to come back and keep coaching. I think he wants to keep coaching. That $33 million buyout is here no matter what. So whenever he's fired, that's just a year's salary that he loses. You got to think about, budgeting for retirement, right, Dave? And why?
Well, what you don't want to be, I'll say this, is you don't want to kind of flounder your way out. Aren't we seeing that with Rick Pitino now, who is Iona?
I don't know why he's still coaching. I have no idea why he's still coaching.
Well, because he loves it. I've said before, look at what Howard Stern is doing. He's interviewing rock stars, long form interviews. That ain't work. That's fun. So to him, it's fun. What you don't want to be is you just kind of slip down from a team that could win a championship. This sounds insane, but I would have said, I'm good with John Calipari's garbage. Go hire Rick Pitino. And I would have hired Rick Pitino.
You'd have hired Rick Pitino back?
Yep. I think he's one of the best coaches of my generation.
I
even
think
though
Rick
he's
Pitino
70.
was a very much ahead of the curve coach. I don't think he's as ahead of the curve anymore as he was.
Well, neither is John Calipari. The one
No, he's not. He's not.
Is the one and done doing it for him anymore?
No, but who's got a more recent national championship that's actually in the record books that's not forfeited?
Compared to who? Patino or
Calipari or Pitino? Who's got a more recent?
Calipari does, but Patino's much older, and I agree the game's passing by. My question is with the one and done, he seemed to take a little bit of a shot, I thought, at Rick Barnes.
Yeah, so let's give the quote that he took.
Yeah, why don't you give the quote? Because this is basically what Rick Barnes did, but I think it was a smart move, and I don't know why John Calipari decided to take a shot at him.
Having this, okay, so I can't do a Calipari impression, funny enough, but he has that salesman's voice. You know what I'm talking about, right, Dave? Yeah. Where he almost sounds like he's smarter than everybody in the room when he talks.
Yes,
and
that's the point.
Yeah. So he basically says having this program in today's environment, it's a little different now. I mean, kids are 25, 26, 27. Now, how do you continue to do it with freshmen? What do they have to look like physically? And do you bring in some transfers out of that portal to make up for your team? Some people are not taking any freshmen. They're just going in the portal with 12 new guys and hope it works out. I would just tell you that I like the combination of both. We just got to get the right transfer who understands what this is. We got to keep coaching these young kids. Sounds like someone's whining that his own way isn't working anymore, even though he chose his own way.
Yeah, and my question, if I'm Mitch Barnhart, the athletic director at Kentucky, who was an associate athletic director at Tennessee, would be, why did you not see this coming? I mean, the rules drastically changed, so why are you still playing by wing T rules when it's obvious that there are more explosive and more efficient ways of building a program? And let's not forget that Rick Barnes had every bit the challenge that John Calipari has on an annual basis, Caleb, and that is to make sure the chemistry's right. You can say that, yeah, you're just going to call up Dalton Connect and give him a bunch of money, which, by the way, he truly is not in it for the money. That was said on television, but there's a lot of truth to that. I've heard he's turned down money for autographs, but you don't know that he's going to come in and not be a diva. So that's what John Calipari has been trying to do for years, is meld together chemistry of a group. And he's done it a couple times. He did it to a championship level one time at Kentucky, almost at Memphis, but he hasn't done it repeatedly. So why is he ripping somebody else like Rick Barnes about a new method in which is basically the same method? The kids are just a little bit older.
Yeah, I don't see what his beef is with this. You're right. It's like, it's not, he's acting like he's doing some sort of developing. I think that's what bothered me the most about this quote. The way he said it under the guise of, I develop my players. I care about coaching them. Yes. And honestly,
is that a new voice? I think that's a new British voice.
That's my posh Calipari voice. I coach my players. I develop them. Yes, I develop them.
We will not have a full Kate Middleton breakdown coming up. Go ahead.
No, we will not. But that's what he tried to play. But homeboy, you get one and dones, and they probably don't even go to class for a semester, right? Like, you ship them straight to the NBA after you roll the ball out for them to play for you. Are you telling me that John Calipari in the 1 year he's coaching these players is developing them for the NBA? Is that what he's doing, Dave?
No, he is not. Because no, he's not developing. All they have to do is pass 6 hours to be eligible for the postseason.
But he's developing them as people. He's working so hard.
He's not. Hey, check out my friend Rick Terry at Rick Terry Jewelry Design. They want to be your jeweler looking for affordable game day jewelry. The Fire Opals. The Fire Opals will be part of the prize pack that goes to our Celebrity Bracket Challenge. Go to rickterryjewelry.com, rickterryjewelry.com, and you can check out those Fire Opals that are absolutely fantastic. My other question is, can John Calipari change his stripes? Can he become a coach that is a transfer portal guy as opposed to a one and done guy? Can I go ahead and give you the answer to that? Because that was a rhetorical question.
Sure.
I as much as I love you, I don't really think that I could possibly be wrong on this. The answer is hell no. There's no way, because he has the ties to Nike in which he's getting the kids that are coming straight out of school because Nike's funneling them to him. Well, now those kids have a way of getting their own revenue, so they're not going to go where Nike necessarily says, and certainly not in the transfer portal. Yes, Nike can make a couple of phone calls, but can they straight up steer you by paying your AAU coach for basketball gear, air quotes? No, they can't do that anymore. They can try, but in 2 or 3 years, they're going to find out that's not very fruitful. The bottom line is the kids that are coming out now, the Dalton Connects, they're smart enough to make their own decisions. So Nike, Kentucky, sorry, you're dated.
Here's the one way it could actually work. But see, it wouldn't work for a Dalton Connect, because what was Dalton Connect? No, it's okay. You're mostly right, because the biggest reason a guy like a Dalton Connect, because that's who Calipari would need to get in the transfer portal, right? That's what he'd have to do, is get a Dalton Connect on his team. The reason a Dalton Connect would never go there is a transfer portal guy like Dalton Connect, they're looking for a coach that'll fine-tune their skills so they're ready for the NBA the next year, right? They're looking for a coach that'll develop them. And Dalton Connect went to Tennessee because he needed to learn how to play defense, and he knew Rick Barnes would coach him. What is Calipari going to coach you? That's the bad part. Now, here's the good part. It's fine-tuning your skills and improving your draft stock. Now, I'll say this much for Calipari. Largely because the NBA, as you know, Dave, they scout these guys in high school now anyway. So, like, these one-and-done things, this idea, Bruce Pearl told this blatant lie one time. It was like, one-and-done is working. It's given the players the exposure they need to become draft picks. They were going to be draft picks out of high school. Stop lying. It's not working, okay? They're just waiting a year to draft them. Because they know they're getting drafted, they aren't as obsessed with the idea of playing hero ball or being the go-to guy at Kentucky. They don't really care if they score 15, 20 points. You know what I mean? Because they know they're going to be top 5 picks anyway. Because they don't care, Calipari can go to a lower-level transfer portal guy that's a good player that's looking to improve his draft stock, and Calipari can maybe sell, I'll make you my go-to scorer. Like Dalton Connect, you'll be playing with all of this talent around you, and you'll be the go-to scorer.
No.
And you'll be the go-to guy.
You know why you can't do that?
Why can't you?
You start making those promises, doing what he does, you will destroy chemistry. I've seen it done by coaches that rarely do that, and when they do, it destroys chemistry. That's why I don't think you could pull that off. That's why I don't think you can pay players, because then they have leverage on you. My question for you and the message board, it might even be a poll question. Is it a good thing for Tennessee that John Calipari is staying at Kentucky? That's a question I have for you. Give about 50 seconds to our friend Dynasty Pools and Spas. Caleb, I'm curious if you can pull up Calipari's record against Barnes, because I think, as odd as this sounds for a national championship coach to be staying at a place like Kentucky, that's a blue blood. I wonder if this is good for Tennessee. Just imagine having the best spas made right here in the United States of America in your backyard. What about that? Dynasty Pools and Spas. Their showroom is open in Athens, right off the interstate. You can stop by and check out the best hot tubs and spas in the market. And then delivery, yes, they can do that to Knoxville or Chattanooga. They've got complete support, spa cover, and chemicals to keep your spa bubbling at its best. They also have pool chemicals as well. Dynasty Pools and Spas, amazing discounts for first responders, military, and even some blemish models that can save you a ton, and no one will ever notice. Mention Off the Hook Sports, get $500 off. Mention Off the Hook Sports, get $500 off. Dynasty Pools and Spas. Go to dynastypoolsandspas.com or stop by that showroom in Athens. dynastypoolsandspas.com. Dynasty Pools and Spas. All right. So what is Rick Barnes' record against John Calipari?
Well, since he's been at Tennessee, specifically, he is 11-10. Rick Barnes is. Now, I can't count like when Rick Barnes was at Texas and Calipari was at Memphis. I haven't tracked that far back, but Tennessee and Kentucky, Barnes is 11-10. But I will say this, and we're going to talk about this soon as Kentucky as a program as a whole, but The only reason I say it's not necessarily a good or bad thing, if John Calipari stays or goes, is in the Kentucky's an overrated program. Kentucky's an overrated program. They have won 4 national titles since integration, since post Adolph Rupp, but no coach has won more than 1. And quite honestly, Calipari overall has been to more Final Fours, more title games, and things like that than quite honestly anybody before him. I mean, he's more successful at Kentucky than technically Rick Pitino is, if you wanted to go there. So, I mean, now to be fair, Rick Pitino, that Kentucky team, that Kentucky program in the late mid '90s, they should have three-peated. Remember they lost to Arizona one year in Lute Olson when Mike Bibby was there?
Yes.
And we're upset. That was a fluke. That Kentucky program from 96 to 98 it should have three-peated. But in the post Adolph Rupp world, Kentucky's kind of an overrated program.
That's strong. Now it's well funded. Are you factoring that in?
Yes, I am. But I'm factoring in that when they had, I mean, how long was Rick Pitino there before he actually won a national title? He was there for like a good 7 years, 8 years, right?
He was there long enough to give a glowing endorsement of Wade Houston needs to return and be the lifetime coach of Tennessee, which I think Rick Barnes should come out and do. I think he should hold an impromptu press conference and just say, I just want to congratulate Kentucky on making one hell of a call. That Coach Calipari is as good as they come, and he's not slimy at all. And I think he'll do really well in this transfer world. And I think they made a great hire. Just an impromptu press conference. How awesome would that be?
That would be hilarious. And Rick Barnes would be smart enough to do that, though. You know who was too dumb to not realize that, by the way? You know who made the one mistake on that front?
Who was that?
This shows you how unbright he was. 2011, Les Miles at LSU, when there was a debate, should Alabama play Oklahoma State for the national title? And Les Miles, because LSU was already in, Les Miles was making his rounds, being like, Alabama's such a great team. You know, that was such a great game we played. I believe they're the second best team. I'm like, dude, you're literally influencing the voter, the coaches to force you to play Alabama again instead of Oklahoma State for the national title. How are you that dumb? Honestly. And then we found out he voted Alabama number 2 over Oklahoma State because he had a vote in it. I'm like, Dave, if you were Les Miles in that situation, is there any chance you're voting Alabama number 2 for a rematch?
No, I'm not. But by the way, our poll question, Cam Selden being out, in case you didn't hear, he's having shoulder surgery, is blank. Troublesome, 48%. Okay, 39%. I don't even think he's a factor. Got 12%. So we've got a new poll question up. I like to replace these ever so often. Based off those numbers, are you glad as an SEC Vol fan that Coach Cal is coming back? Snarky. Yes, he's not as good as Barnes. Yes. That question doesn't make any sense. All right, so if you're on the poll, it's yes, they could have gotten better. They could have gotten a coach that's better. Or no, he's good, tough to beat. So if you had to choose between those three, I'm just going to reset the stupid thing. Go ahead.
Say them again. What are the 2 yes options?
Okay. Are you glad Coach Cal is coming back? Let's just leave it at that. Yes, he's awful. Yes, he's aging. How about that? No, he's still a champ. Okay. I know what you're going to say. What are you going to say?
I'll say no, he's still a champ. I'm going to be a little fair, and I'll say no, he's still a champ.
All right. Well, let me hear from you because I got to win this thing, right? I mean, I got to win. I will say the poll questions are important to me. I don't sleep at night if I don't win these things. So go ahead and vote now because the answer is they could have gotten a lot better. They could have gotten the Hurley guy out of UConn, not specifically him, but they could have gotten that level of coach, a good young coach. It's going to inspire kids, bring them together instead of just get them paid. Here's the bad news, John Calipari. Everybody's getting paid. It's not the CTM, the Calipari teller machine anymore. It's the TTM, transfer teller machine. That's what it is. You're dated. You're gone. Sorry. Can you completely redo your image and how you do business at your age at 60 plus years old? Maybe. But that ain't going to be real easy because you used to just be able to pick up the phone call and say, Nike, I would like this dude. I saw him at a camp the other day, and you got him. Now you've really got to fight for transfer portal guys. You don't think Rick Barnes fought for Dalton Connect? He was the gem of the portal, Caleb.
Well, so here's a thought I just got in my head.
Always scares me.
No, it's this is where I could be okay with Calipari going. If you're a Tennessee fan. Okay, what if Kentucky got rid of Calipari and he's out of the SEC now? And then they go hire Bruce Pearl. Now, Bruce Pearl is going to do well at Kentucky. There's no debate. He's going to make Kentucky great. But Auburn will no longer be a threat. So you lose one of the main... Right now, Kentucky and Auburn are threats, right?
Yes.
If Calipari goes and Bruce Pearl takes that job, then this is why you should want Calipari to go, because they might hire a Bruce Pearl. Then now Auburn is no longer a threat to the program. So you remove one of your threats.
No, very true. All right. I can roll with that. I can roll with that.
I mean, that's why I would never forget when Tubby left Kentucky years ago, and I was still a fan at this time. Not a Kentucky fan, I was just a fan. I was a Tennessee fan. I make it clear I'm not a fan of I don't.
You like Tubby Smith is what you're telling me, right?
No. I remember saying at the time, Kentucky was targeting Billy Donovan. And I was like, kind of hope he goes. Because Kentucky's going to be fine either way. I'd rather not have to deal with Florida all the time in basketball. And so,
fair.
I kind of look at it that way.
City Heating and Air Conditioning, 50 years in East Tennessee. Integrity matters. Don't trust a fly-by-night HVAC company to tell you that you need a new unit that could cost you thousands or more. cityheatandair.com. cityheatandair.com. It is time for 4 Downs, and it's brought to you by Dynasty Pools and Spas.
4 Downs brought to you by Dynasty Spas, the most comfortable spas made in the United States of America, right here in East Tennessee. Drop in for the all-new showroom in Athens. Dynasty Spas, perfect for all 4 seasons. 4 Downs, presented by Off the Hook Sports.
So, Coach Calipari will stay at Kentucky. He is retained. Coop, what should people do?
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
Thank you, Coop. What down?
Coop here. First down.
The SEC is better with John Calipari in it. Yes or no? Caleb?
Yes, because he's fun.
He's fun. He's entertaining. I would guess that even SEC basketball fans couldn't name half the coaches that are out there. All right. Now, what down now?
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
All right. Kentucky's program. Is it still the flagship program of the SEC right now with what it's done recently?
Yes, it still is, because they have the most recent national title. They have, even though I criticized them where the program's been overrated, I just say a coach hasn't had a dynasty, but 4 different coaches have won 4 national titles since 1978. So, because you got, I forget who won it in 78, but then you had Rick Pitino, Tubby Smith, and John Calipari have all won them.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think Kentucky is, yes, they're the class of the SEC.
What down, Coop?
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. Third down.
What program is most likely to snag that away from them? Alabama snagged that away from, Florida snagged that title of top program away from Alabama in football in the mid-90s. What program is most likely to just snag it away, say, this is the flagship station or flagship team of the SEC?
Well, as of right now, it's Tennessee. I think Tennessee's best position to take that away. I think an underrated one is Texas when they joined the SEC is very well positioned to take that away too. But
people are going to think I'm just trying to jab you, but I think it's Pearl and I think it's Auburn. And the reason I say that is because they're placing a big emphasis on it. Rick Barnes is going to be 70, so I think he's only got 2 more years. Dalton Connect, obviously, this is his last year. The other programs that are out there, I don't think have a coach that is, I just don't like Nate Oates. Maybe I should pick Alabama. I don't know, but I just don't like him. But as far as having a coach that's still in his prime, there aren't a lot of coaches out there that I look at and I think those are great coaches in their prime. How many make up that group, Caleb, in the SEC right now?
I mean, very few. You are right about that. I mean, you would say, Chris Beard at Ole Miss. Watch out for him, quite honestly. The one who got fired from Texas. Bruce Pearl towards the end. Rick Barnes. I get what you're saying, but I just think Rick Barnes could coach until 80 and still have his wits about him. And I don't mean coach till 80 the way Joe Paterno did. I don't know any of my players, as he would say at his press conferences.
All your voices, your Paterno impression may be your best.
Was that a good one?
That was good. Yeah.
Really?
And I'm telling you, it is not.
Like, that is total bullshit.
It wasn't, Peyton. It was great.
So let's have a Joe Paterno Lou Holtz conversation one day at this.
Do that.
Everything should be done with college football.
All right. What down is it?
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. 4th down.
The SEC's response to Calipari stumbling in the NCAA tournament and the SEC being absolutely horrible in the NCAA tournament should be blank. And it's brought to you by our good friends at Dynasty Pools and Spas. Don't forget, they deliver, and you will be absolutely blown away by their showroom, Dynasty Pools and Spas. Just imagine having the best spas made right here in the United States of America in your backyard. What about that? Dynasty Pools and Spas. Their showroom is open in Athens, right off the interstate. You can stop by and check out the best hot tubs and spas in the market. And delivery, yes, they can do that to Knoxville or Chattanooga. They've got complete support, spa cover, and chemicals to keep your spa bubbling at its best. They also have pool chemicals as well. Dynasty Pools and Spas, amazing discounts for first responders, military, and even some blemish models that can save you a ton, and no one will ever notice. Mention Off the Hook Sports, get $500 off. Mention Off the Hook Sports, get $500 off. Dynasty Pools and Spas. Go to dynastypoolsandspas.com or stop by that showroom in Athens. dynastypoolsandspas.com. Dynasty Pools and Spas. Dynasty Pools and Spas delivers within 125 miles, and they have the best chemicals for your pool and spa with more active ingredients and less filler than you get at the big box store. And they're all local. Support local, support our sponsors. That's why we are here. Caleb, 4th down. You say what?
I don't think the SEC will have much of a response to this. I think most of the programs are content with basketball. I mean,
go get Duke in North Carolina. I've had enough of this. Have some leverage in when they put these tournament games on. Duke and North Carolina, go get them.
So, look, I mean, Arkansas actually won a national title in the 90s, and they're still a football school, right?
Yes.
Florida won back-to-back national titles, and they're still a football school. In the 2000s, they won back-to-back national titles. I think national titles they should be more proud of than the football titles they're proud of, but they won't ever say that. But let's be honest, I have much greater respect for the Billy Donovan teams and the Urban Meyer teams of that era.
Agreed.
And yet still Kentucky's the class because they just don't care enough. I think Tennessee could take it away. So I don't think it's going to put anybody on notice. I think the SEC is largely already on notice because they're seeing value in basketball. You're seeing them really, over the past few years, they've done a great job of hiring coaches. The SEC has, better than I've ever seen. But
wait a second, you kind of contradicted yourself. You said the coaches weren't great.
No, I didn't. I said there were no like great coaches in their prime. They've hired like good coaches, but no coach is great enough to take out Kentucky.
The one is Nate Oates, isn't he? Even though we hate to say it because I really don't like him.
Possibly. I would have said Eric Musselman at Arkansas until this year. But it's funny because we talk about this Kentucky thing and like these legendary names, Rick Pitino. So Rick Pitino was at Kentucky at the same time Nolan was at Arkansas. One's a blue blood, and Nolan won a national title before Pitino did.
You know what is so funny? Arthur brings this up on the message board. And that is Kentucky really did not have that bad of a season. If you go back and look, what was the final ranking? I mean, we talk about Tennessee having this special, iconic season, but greatest of the eons. And I think there was, 1 or 2 games separating them ultimately in both the overall win-loss record and the SEC record, and by Kentucky's viewed as they had a down year.
They did go. They went 23-10 though. That's a very mediocre record by Kentucky standards, even in the regular season.
I agree. But what was Tennessee?
Tennessee was 26-8. Now they're 26-8. That add 2 NCAA tournament wins. So to be fair, you actually have a point because Kentucky went into.
I'm glad I could surprise you.
No, because Kentucky went into the NCAA tournament 23-9. Tennessee went in at 24-8. So that does make it pretty clear that Tennessee was. I do see your point there. As far as, but. I think Tennessee is one of the few schools that could surpass Kentucky as a basketball school because I think as a basketball blue blood, because I think the fans would be there for it. Don't you agree? Like Tennessee is one of the few where the fans would, although Alabama's there too. I think Alabama really cares about other sports. I know people that follow Alabama softball, honestly, heavily. And
those people have a lot of free time on their hands though. You would have to agree with that.
Yeah, they would. But remember when Florida was the class of the SEC in basketball, they still weren't filling that tiny stadium, the Stephen O'Connell Center or whatever. Like they never cared down there in Gainesville about basketball.
Interesting. So I ask you this, how many schools could possibly overtake if this happened, which we're talking about a big if, but there was a time that Florida seemed more like a championship football school than Alabama with all the issues that they were going through. So it can happen probably for a short time. The Blue Bloods are the Blue Bloods, no matter the sport. But what are the schools? Give me 3 or 4 or 5 that you think, wrapping this up, that you think can surpass the University of Kentucky as the premier flagship program in the SEC, brought to you by Don Self. Customer service still matters. For over 40 years, they built their business on taking care of their customers. That's Don Self, the greater Chattanooga area, 423-396-2126. That's 423-396-2126, or go to donself.net, donself.net. So who's in as far as programs that could replace Kentucky as the flagship program in college basketball? I would go Alabama, Tennessee, Auburn. You said Texas. I'm having trouble coming up with another one, Caleb. Maybe you would throw it A&M because they're so well funded and everything.
Yeah, so A&M and Texas, I would do it. Alabama, Tennessee. I can't go Auburn. Dave, to say this, they would have to stay relevant past Bruce Pearl. I don't think Auburn's going to do that. And I don't think the boosters and fans are there. I think my other one is, I'm sticking with it. I think it's Arkansas. I mean, because whatever you think about Arkansas, they did win a national title in the 90s. There's a lot of fond memories of the 40 minutes. I felt they won a national title playing the most fun brand of basketball you could play. You think there's a lot of wealthy people who went to school during that time now that
like Bill Clinton?
Yes, that's a good
like Jerry Jones. Maybe they could get Jerry Jones to bomb a basketball player or two.
Jerry Jones isn't going to care about the basketball program.
I know, but it never hurts to ask. He's got millions just laying around.
But true. But so the question comes to you because like Florida was clearly that program was Billy Donovan, not Florida, right? It was Billy Donovan.
Yes.
Would you say Arkansas success was indicative of what could be there, or was that just Nolan Richardson running a good system at the time?
I think that Arkansas probably got a little bit too big for their britches and thought that Nolan Richardson was just a factor in what they had built, when in reality, you and I know he was who built it.
Yes, they also.
I think they thought they could just hire another coach to take over for Nolan, and they'd still be knocking on the door of a championship every year, and that ain't the case.
Also helped that Nolan could go right across the river, the Mississippi River, and just get those Memphis kids right out of Memphis, pluck them right out. I mean, and he would have them in Arkansas, like Todd Day. And
I'm telling you, call Jerry Jones. Call Jerry Jones.
They are. If they were in a better.
I'm wrestling with something in my head that I'm going to ask the message board. Should I do this? I have a very okay Jerry Jones impression, and I'm not sure that I should do it. If you'll hit the like button.
What is it? I don't know what it is.
If you hit the subscribe button, all my impressions are better than yours.
That was my Joe Pa impression.
No, your Joe Pa's that's top rank. I interviewed Jerry Jones one time in the locker room, and I'm trying to rekindle that. Well, what we got to go out and do is see. No, it's not good. I want to work on that.
That sounded a little more like Jimmy Johnson than Jerry Jones.
Yeah, that was like some sort of amalgamation of both. Yes, that's a word. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. This has been a presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Support local. That's why we're here. Support our sponsors. That's why we're here at 10 a.m. live. That is weekdays, 10 a.m. live. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. This has been a